He taunted police, mocked journalists, and vanished into the shadows. He claimed 37 victims, but was never caught. Tonight, we dive into the chilling mystery of the Zodiac Killer, America's most infamous unsolved serial killer. You're watching USA True Crimes, where we uncover the darkest true crime stories and explore every twist, clue, and secret the authorities might not want you to know. Before we begin, a warning. This story involves violent crimes, murder, and psychological terror. Viewer discretion is advised. The Zodiac Killer terrorized Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. His first known attack was on December 20th, 1968, when high school students David Faraday and Lou Jensen were shot dead on Lake Herman Road in Vallejo. Over the next few years, the killer struck again, sometimes killing, sometimes leaving cryptic letters full of taunts, ciphers, and threats sent directly to newspapers. Despite leaving behind dozens of letters, cryptograms, and phone calls, the Zodiac never revealed his identity. He seemed obsessed with attention, sending messages to the press boasting about his crimes and challenging law enforcement. Some letters included the infamous cipher codes, two of which remain unsolved even today. By the end of his known reign of terror, the Zodiac had claimed at least 5 confirmed victims, but he claimed many more. He created a climate of fear across Northern California, taunting police, terrifying journalists, and haunting the public imagination for decades. Tonight, we'll explore the timeline, the victims, the suspects, and the chilling letters that continue to baffle investigators. In the next 15 minutes, we'll walk through every key attack, meet the victims and suspects, and follow the investigation from the first murder to the Zodiac's final confirmed letter in 1974. We'll explore theories that law enforcement considered, suspects who were pursued, and the mistakes that may have let one of America's most elusive killers slip through their fingers. Some clues led nowhere. Some suspects were ruled out. And some mysteries, like the unsolved ciphers, remain today. So buckle up, because the Zodiac Killer is not just a story of murder, but of obsession, fear, and a game of cat and mouse that spanned decades. To understand the Zodiac, we need to know the people he targeted, the streets he haunted, and the timeline that left Northern California in fear. It all began on December 20th, 1968. David Faraday, 17, and Lou Jensen, 16, were parked on Lake Herman Road in Vallejo. The young couple had been on a date. Eyewitnesses reported a suspicious car, and shortly after, shots rang out. Both teenagers were killed instantly. It was brutal and seemingly random. The next attack came 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969. Michael Mageau, 19, and Darlene Ferrin, 22, were at Blue Rock Springs Park. The Zodiac approached, shot them at close range, and then vanished. Ferrin died, but Mageau survived. His testimony would later prove invaluable, describing a man with a round face, sunglasses, and a dark jacket. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac struck again, this time in San Francisco. Taxicab driver Paul Stine, 29, was shot in the cab in Presidio Heights neighborhood. Unlike previous attacks, this one occurred in a busy urban area, signaling the killer's growing confidence. Crucially, a piece of Stine's bloody shirt was left behind, later mailed to a newspaper by the Zodiac himself. The killer's signature had emerged, taunting letters, cryptograms, and claims of more victims. Letters were sent to the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald. One began with the chilling line, "This is the Zodiac speaking." Police had several suspects over the years, but none were confirmed. Arthur Leigh Allen, a Vallejo man in his 30s, became the prime suspect in the 1970s. But despite circumstantial evidence, a Zodiac watch, cryptic statements, and questionable alibis, DNA and handwriting tests later failed to tie him conclusively to the murders. Key investigators included Inspector David Tashi of the San Francisco Police Department and Sergeant William Armstrong of Vallejo PD. Tashi became famous for his meticulous attention to detail, but even he admitted that Zodiac was always one step ahead. The Zodiac left several important pieces of evidence: fingerprint dustings at crime scenes, a partial palm print on a cab door, and letters containing cryptic codes. Two of these ciphers, the 340-character cipher, baffled cryptographers for decades. Phone calls to police and newspapers further taunted authorities. proving the killer thrived on attention. Witnesses described a man 5 feet 8 inches to 5 feet 10 inches, stocky build, dark hair, sunglasses, and sometimes a jacket with symbol resembling a crosshair. But no two accounts fully agreed, making identification nearly impossible. With the victims and suspects introduced, the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, but the investigation would be long, complicated, and full of dead ends. By 1969, Northern California was gripped by fear. The Zodiac wasn't just killing. He was playing a game, taunting police and newspapers alike. But how did law enforcement try to catch him? Detectives Tashi and Armstrong began a meticulous investigation. They interviewed witnesses, examined crime scenes, and followed every tip. Despite thousands of leads, they often hit dead ends. Some tips led to dead ends or innocent suspects. The Zodiac's letters complicated matters. He signed them with his own symbol and claimed more murders than police could verify, creating a flood of false leads. One lead involved a man named Arthur Leigh Allen. Allen had a criminal record, owned a Zodiac brand watch, and reportedly made disturbing statements. But fingerprint comparisons and DNA evidence later failed to tie him to the crimes. He remained a suspect until his death in 1992, and no charges were ever filed. The Zodiac's motives were complex. He seemed driven by a desire for notoriety and control, a need to terrify communities and assert dominance over law enforcement. Some experts suggest he may have had a psychological compulsion to communicate through puzzles and letters, seeking attention while avoiding capture. Others believe his killings were opportunistic, targeting couples in secluded areas, with one bold murder in San Francisco signaling a desire for publicity. Criminal profilers describe him as organized but narcissistic, intelligent, and socially manipulative. He was likely familiar with police procedures, carefully leaving clues and misinformation to prolong his elusiveness. Several alternate theories exist. Some believe the Zodiac may have been a law enforcement officer, explaining his knowledge of investigations. Others speculate multiple killers were involved, or that he stopped killing voluntarily. Even the ciphers fuel conspiracy theories, hinting at hidden codes, cult symbolism, or connections to other crimes across the country. None of these theories were ever confirmed. Despite the public frenzy, no one was ever convicted. The Zodiac was never formally brought to trial. Some suspects faced questioning, including Allen, but police lacked enough evidence for prosecution. Investigators often faced bureaucratic limitations and poor interagency communication, which slowed progress. Letters continued to arrive until the early 1970s, including the infamous Exorcist letter referencing horror films and threats to more victims. Police could only respond with warnings and public appeals for information. The investigation left many questions unanswered. Who was the Zodiac? How many did he truly kill? And why did he disappear without a trace after 1974? After years of terror, taunts, and unsolved murders, the Zodiac Killer seemed to vanish into thin air. But the story doesn't end there. The mystery only deepens. The Zodiac's final confirmed letter arrived in January 1974, addressed to the San Francisco Chronicle. After that, he disappeared. No more attacks, no more letters, as if he simply vanished. Modern investigators have attempted to decode the remaining ciphers, analyze DNA from stamps and envelopes, and use forensic genealogy, but the Zodiac's identity remains unknown. The chilling truth: we may never know who he was, how many he killed, or why he stopped. Some letters were solved, revealing his obsession with power and control, but two major ciphers remain undecoded, leaving the world with questions that may never be answered. The families of the victims, David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Paul Stine, and others, have spent decades seeking answers. Police continue to receive tips, and the Zodiac case remains open in multiple jurisdictions. His story influenced pop culture, inspiring movies, books, and documentaries, serving as a cautionary tale of a criminal who turned fear into a public spectacle. The Zodiac also changed policing, leading to better interagency cooperation and improvements in forensic and investigative techniques, including the use of DNA and cryptography in criminal cases. While the Zodiac Killer fascinates many, it's important to remember the human cost. These were real people, teenagers, young adults, whose lives were brutally cut short. True crime content must respect their memory, avoid glorifying the killer, and focus on learning, justice, and awareness. If you found this deep dive into the Zodiac Killer compelling, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling true crime stories. Click the next video to explore another unsolved American mystery, and check the description for links to sources, victim support funds, and ways to learn more about forensic investigation. Credits: archival photos courtesy of local newspapers and police departments. Music license from Source. This video is for educational purposes and entertainment only, and is not a substitute for official records or legal documents. Viewer discretion is advised.